Well, that's just prime.
Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome to That's Just Prime, a Beast Wars podcast about Beast Wars, funny enough. I'm Chris from Carnage Creations. That's Ian, he's ArrowFyre. Ian, how are you?
I'm good, thanks very much for having me. So we got a good episode to go through today with episode 5, isn't it, of Chain of Command?
Sure is.
4, 5, 5. So yeah, this is where I feel we're getting into the meat and the bones of the series. Whereas we've said with the previous ones, they've been growing pains. And now we're starting to see some really meaty stories, some good underlying stories that are kind of played throughout the entirety of the first season of Beast Wars. So it's really cool watching it back. You realize just how much there is here. Just really enjoying doing this podcast with you, Chris. It's been really good fun.
We had a great episode last time with episode 4, our toy episode, or our first toy episode. There will be more. And we covered 1996's retail toy line. So that was really fun. Big bumper episode. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. And today, as you say, we're going on to episode 5 of the TV series, season 1, and Chain of Command. And as you say, it's a very solid story. We're starting to get away from, hey, this is this character and this is this character, and we're actually getting into proper storyline stuff. And this is one of the first episodes that really sort of treads into that overarching story of this whole first season. So it's an important episode, and it is good. So we'll get into it straight away. We'll cover off all the other stuff at the end of the episode. But this one's, it's quite fun, but it's a bit more of a serious tone too. So like there's jokes and all that sort of stuff that's always in Beast Wars, but they're exploring sort of more existential stuff in this episode, I guess.
Yeah, it's good though, isn't it? Because you kind of feel the first episodes were starting to be everything a bit G1 like, and I'm not hating on G1 at all, but the cartoon, it could all be resolved in 18 minutes. It was all wrapped up, neat and tidy, and done, and Megatron will run away again. And with Beast Wars, we had that with the early episodes, and then the writers and the voice actors all felt comfortable to let's play a long game here. Let's flesh things out. Although saying that about things all being wrapped up in 18 minutes, I have noticed watching this back on the 4K editions on YouTube that you can find, every episode is 22 minutes and 11 seconds long. Do with that what you will.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting fact I didn't know. Yeah, look, we'll get into the episode anyway. Look, it's another great intro with a nice lens flare that pans down into, with the great music, of course. You guys can't see this, but he's playing a little air guitar there.
Rocking air guitar there.
But yeah, we get a pan down that goes onto essentially Stonehenge, but the standing stones that we saw very early on in episode 1 or episode 2. One of those, the two-parter pilot anyway. So once we pan down, and the cast looks great here again. This 4K upscale is just beautiful. This episode has a lot of really nice shots in it where you see great shots of the beast mode, great shots of the robot modes, and group shots as well. Just something that I noticed while watching this, that maybe it's something to do with the lighting in this episode. There was like dusk and dawn type shots, and it really made a lot of the character models pop. So they look great in their beast mode. Primal does look a little funny with his scanner in hand as he's scanning the standing stones in his gorilla form, but we'll leave that alone. They do what they need to do with the Energon. Yeah, that's right. Rattrap comments that about the planet is meant to be uninhabited as far as they know, which of course is foreshadowing for later on. We pan around and we get a shot from behind, a back shot, if you will, of all the Maximals, and a big close-up, essentially, of Rhinox's butt looking onto a giant bowl of Ferrero Rochers in the middle of the standing stones.
Very neat and very precisely laid bowl of rocks. It's but Rhinox goes in straight away because they're all saying, as I know you're going to get to, it's like saying this planet's uninhabited, and saying, well, this energon isn't natural. And I got to thinking, what is natural energon? I mean, maybe with Transformers 1 that's come out recently, we have seen a bit of a energon life spring. But if you're on another planet that's not Cybertronian. And you say, well, what is natural energon?
Yeah, I have found that a little strange too, because the energon for the most part has been in mountains or in veins through the ground and all that, and it seems pretty natural in that sense. Obviously, the Transformers race know more than we do about energon, I assume, and again, they're a science crew,
I hope so.
so we've got to take their word for it. But yeah, Rhinox is like, yeah, this is a little sus. I don't think this is natural, and he's got his guard up for sure. The other Maximals, I wanted to say Autobots then, idiot. The other Maximals, yeah, just pops in there, a little earworm. But they are all sort of not joking about it, but they're a little more free on the subject. Like, oh, this is an interesting thing. But Rhinox is very sus on it. Look, Dinobot goes over to the big bowl of Ferrero Rochers and picks up one of them, which is obviously quite large and heavy because he struggles with it in his beast mode. And then, without meaning to, he summons Megatron. By knowing the Preds, how they do their thing, he's like, we've got to get into this before the Preds show up. And of course, the Preds show up.
But it's funny, isn't it, with what we were saying around all the characters. This is the first episode since the pilot episodes. It's the big battle, really, of the pilot episode that you get all 10 cast members in one fight at one time. You think of the previous episodes, with the web, Tarantulas gets his legs shot off and we don't see him in equal measures. So they're swapping out. And I know there was budgetary constraints for the studio and what they could animate at one time. And granted, the likes of Scorponok doesn't get a lot to do in this big first battle scene other than getting shot off the top of the rock, but they're all there, so I guess that should be noted. It's the first 5-on-5 battle since the big battle on the Energon Cliff on the pilot episode.
Definitely. Yeah, and look, the maybe the show was getting some popularity. We're just making assumptions. I'd love to get Bob Forward or Lara DiTilio on at some point to talk about some of that production side. Stay tuned, guys, and we'll do what we can. Look, the Preds, the Preds start firing at the Maximals to take ground and try and sort of take these standing stones. We get an epic shot with the light behind him of Tarantulas firing the spider leg machine guns, which is really cool. We have seen it before, but the way they framed it just looked awesome. We got the firing effects from the tips of the legs, so that was really cool. We get Cheetor doing a nice tuck and roll, as you say, firing Scorponok off the top of the rock, and we get that very cool sound from Cheetor's gut gun again, which is very nice. And I'll probably edit that in if you haven't heard it already. Look, Rhinox announces that the flies are incoming and Primal says they're mine. So we get a cool takeoff and it dispatches Waspinator pretty quickly, but Pterosaur dodges out of the way. In doing this, he fires a shot back, which hits the big bowl of rocks and causes a big explosion. We get a great shot of Rhinox doing the very trope, action explosion jump slow-mo away from
Michael Bay is rubbing his hands together for royalties.
He's I've got an idea here. The big percussion wave, slow-mo ride off. Great lighting effects here too, so they didn't skimp on effects. They got that sort of glow as the explosion went off.
I will say, just to go in at that point, even Megatron says, Pterosaur, you fool, you've blown it up, now it's useless to us, and they've got to all run away. Even by Pterosaur standards, this is stupid. Why are you shooting unstable energon? They couldn't, in the pilot episode, they couldn't be in their robot forms near really unstable energon for too long anyway. Where did he even think that firing a missile at it was going to do any good? Yeah,
Pterosaur is a bit of a nitwit, and Megatron pretty much calls him a dickhead and calls him out for it straight away. And
that's next level stupid.
Yeah, definitely. So the Preds bail, the Maximals hit beast mode. They bail as well because they're starting to get this build up of energon happening. They think there's going to be a big explosion, but what actually happens is this big beacon signal shoots up into the sky to God knows what at this time, and we get some very ominous music happening at this time, which becomes very familiar, and we hear it many times. It's sort of their go-to weird alien stuff's going on type music.
Yeah. Spooky music. What I noticed at this point is that with the ominous music and the beacon that shoots up and then eventually stops and the energon that's there is reduced to rubbles, that's when the Maximals seem a little bit scared. It's not just Rhinox at this point. Even Optimus is very furious. Yeah, and now for the first time, they've seen something that's not caused by the Predacons. And now it's a bit like, oh, we got to start taking this seriously.
Yeah, definitely. I will say too, there was we were talking about that we had the whole cast there and maybe they got some more budget here. They did skip a transformation sequence there with a sly little transition when they're running away from the the soon-to-be explosion/signal. So, they got their tricks up their sleeves for what they want to animate in this episode.
We do see quickly at the start of the battle when the Predacons first attack. I should have said this back there. I don't know why it stuck in my mind, but I remember it did when I watched it back in the day, where they're all in their beast mode and Rat Trap says to Dinobot, who are hiding behind the same rock, "Man, your old friends don't miss a beat, do they?" Dinobot says maximize, but he says maximize like he absolutely shouts it. He really sort of roars it. So I think Scott McNeil had his vocal cords warmed up that day.
Yeah, did his little his vocal exercises before that recording. The signal goes up into deep space, and we see the energon in the bowl of rocks that was there crumble away. And the Maximals solemnly sort of spectate on the origin and what was going on. And all of a sudden we cut to deep space, and a big giant golden almond sort of comes out of deep space and floats in and flies into Earth's atmosphere. And I assume it was from subspace or a wormhole or something. They sort of animated it like that.
Yep.
As I say, that comes in. Primal is watching out, and he's sitting there watching episode 4 of That's Just Prime on his MacBook Pro there.
He's our best fan, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. And he spots what's unknown, and we find out is the almond, whereas Megatron thinks it's a stasis pod, so he calls for the Preds to get going and try and get their hands on that as quick as they can.
It's a good call to think it is a stasis pod, and even the Maximals half think that it is as well, because they launched the stasis pods in orbit, and it makes sense. It's very much that shape, and it would be crashing to Earth through its own orbit. So it makes perfect sense that they would think that way. But of course, it goes back to the standing stones, and Rhinox quickly works out that it doesn't have the energy signature of a stasis pod. It doesn't have anything that they recognize at all. But it's interestingly, and we don't necessarily know how much time has passed, maybe a week or so, hence why Primal was catching up on our episode, but they go straight back to the standing stones.
Yeah, look, they go out to do their scans and find out what it is, only to be ambushed, of course, by Megatron and Waspinator. The almond powers up, emitting an energy wave that knocks everyone down, and then Optimus gets sucked up by the almond, but we don't know that at the stage. It just kind of disappears.
And Dinobot is just left behind. But what I noticed as well is when they're being felt the effects of this pulsing wave from the almond, as we're going to call it, their eyes and their mouth start like emitting lights. It's like they're really struggling. But yeah,
some serious energy.
And I made a note of this, that of the 3 that are in robot mode, it is Megatron and Waspinator on Predacon side, Dinobot and the Maximals, and Primal is in beast mode still. Yet the aliens, the weird artifact, takes Primal, who's still in gorilla mode. Why would anyone just take a gorilla when you've got 3 highly advanced robots there with destructive capabilities?
I would like to assume that they wanted to do a scan and he was more peaceful in that particular sort of occurrence there.
Yeah,
so
true.
They might have thought, well, if we're going to scan someone and try and communicate with someone, let's go for the peaceful creature opposed to the 3 robots that are having it out. And that's the only thing I can sort of think of. If you're watching that episode by itself, that would make sense. Obviously, there's other information that we find out later on.
We find out later.
As you say, they all got knocked down. Dinobot then wakes up in the CR chamber with flashbacks thinking he's a Pred, and he goes, "What am I doing in this maximal torture chamber?" And he starts sort of going off, and they're like, whoa, you're one of us now, chill. And he calms down for a second.
He seems pretty drunk though, doesn't he? He's very
old. I think it's knocked him for 6, the probe. Yeah, once he realizes that where he is and all that sort of stuff, he announces that he believes Optimus Primal is no more, and the alien probe emitted energy and Primal disappeared. So he doesn't know what's happened. Of course, Dinobot being Dinobot is just like, yeah, Prime's gone, don't worry about him. I'm the strongest, I should be in command now.
I'm the new leader.
Yeah, feeling bad that Primal's gone or whatever. It's just an opportunity for Dinobot to take. So he says, I'm the strongest, I'm the boss, none of you get to question this. Rat Trap has some big brass balls, and he gets right up in Dinobot's chest because he's not very tall, and says, no, I should be the boss. And then Rhinox jumps in, breaks it up, and very, very sort of boringly says, actually, we'll have a secret ballot to sort this out. And we're like, yeah, okay.
Let's have an election. Yay, because that makes good TV. But I will just say, going into it, that's the first time we see a CR chamber, actually twice in this episode when we go to the Predacons in a minute, but that's the first time we see how they get restored. And a CR chamber hasn't really been done again since, and I think it makes a lot of sense because, again, in the G1 cartoon, if Optimus Prime got hurt, you just see Ratchet with tools and spanners and just kind of generically mending him. But these guys can effectively go into hibernation in a chamber that's going to repair him. I always felt it was a really good part of the show. And I was surprised that we never really see it carried on in the other Transformers shows as well. A minor part, but it's something that you hear a lot of. Now, they say as well, we found you at the bottom of the base, stripped down and alone or whatever. How did Dinobot get home? Did he kind of drag himself?
I assume his memory was just knocked out with him when the explosion happened, I guess. But yeah, they don't really explain that. They just sort of, oh, you're back, and we threw you in the CR chamber and heal up. You do say they don't pop up too much, the CR chambers, which is true. I think you see it at the start of season 2 with Optimus Primal, which we'll get to obviously eventually. But yeah, they're not used a lot, just sparingly, which is fine. I don't mind that because otherwise it's a little bit of a mulligan. They can just sort of, oh, we got hurt and just go and heal. As you say, the Predacons have a CR chamber or a CR hot tub, if you want to call it, because it's kind of like this pool that they soak in and then emerge out of. Megatron comes out of that CR hot tub thingy and declares Primal dead, and they should surprise attack the Maximals without their leader, which makes sense from a tactical point of view, I guess. So that's their plan, and they send off to attack.
We start to see Megatron as the chess player now. He's starting to think
absolutely
a little bit more, because he even says, and we'll get to the battle in a minute, he divides up his forces. He doesn't just send everyone to attack the Maximals in one go. He splits them away. Going on to a note I made at the time, and again, I remember this from back in the day, when when Megatron and Waspinator come out of the CR chamber, you got Scorponok and Tarantulas talking to Megatron, and they speak really patronizingly to him. He's like, Megatron back, Megatron back. Oh, Scorponok along with Tarantulas and Pterosaur, very bad. And it's, what you ask? What are you doing?
True. I will say something that's quite validating too. I was watching a video of David Kay and Frank Welker the other day, and David Kay made a point of saying that Megatron is a chess player and he plays a long game of chess. So that was quite validating that we've been saying that, and the man himself made a point on a similar vein.
Shout out to David Kay.
Yeah. Hey David, you want to jump on a podcast sometime?
Yeah. What, you free? You free?
Yeah, look, back over to the Axelon. The ballot ends in a tie, 50-50 between the Rat and the Dino. Rat Trap implies that Dinobot has killed Primal, of course, because they're always butting heads. And just as the action's about to kick off, we get a familiar voice through the comms, a bit like a train station announcement, giving some sort of exposition on where he's at, and it's Optimus, of course. And he says Rat Trap's in charge before anything else can be discussed. So to Dinobot's discussed, of course, and then cue the Preds.
Now let's unpack that, because we've got a lot to unpack there. Right. The maximal ballot, the voting system, 50-50, 4 votes, 2 apiece. Go on then, gun to your head. Who voted for whom? Who voted? Obviously, Rat Trap and Dinobot voted for themselves. Rhinox and Cheetor. Who did they vote for, do you think?
I think Cheetor voted for Dinobot because Dinobot has manipulated him in the past and made him feel very good about himself. And Rhinox and Rat Trap kind of get along fairly well from a professional and personal level, I think.
See, now I'm going the other way around. But I completely understand your reasons. I think you got really good ones. I think Rhinox voted for Dinobot because thinking they need a little bit of strength in command, and Rat Trap up until this point has just been wisecracking, reluctant to go on missions. And think of it, Cheetor's kind of in Rat Trap's pocket because Rat Trap helped him out in the web. You know,
that's good points also.
I mean, we could spin that either way, but I remember thinking, you know, and Rhinox says it's a secret ballot. No one has to say who they voted for. Well, we're never left to know, and I like to
it would be nice.
Anyway.
But as you say, really, it's just a one-on-one vote, isn't it? Because they're voting for themselves anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's a strange, very passive way to figure it out in essentially a war cartoon.
It's just Maximal showing that they're not resorting to death by combat, are they? Or accession through elimination. But going on into the, as you say, the train station announcement with Primal talking to him. Primal says, as far as I can figure, I have no body. My consciousness is being stored here, and that's how I talk to you. Now, okay, let me pick at holes at this now. Communication problems are rife in Beast Wars. They can't talk more than 100 meters away. But a Transformer who has no body, therefore no security device on his arm or whatever, communication device, can communicate to a base, and they're in, okay, there's still some distances apart. But I'm like, hold on a minute. You guys have been struggling to talk just on any given Tuesday, and now you can talk like this. Well, that's convenient.
And how did Primal figure out how to tap into this alien technology to communicate to the base? Like, it's a bit of Swiss cheese here, I think. There's plenty of holes in this one.
That's when I think the aliens kind of started to let them talk and let them flex. And they probably worked out that Primal was one of a number of a crew, and like, oh, if we let them talk, then we can find more of them. Maybe there was a case of, letting it play out so they can feed them more information. But I thought that was funny. Like, oh, you're struggling to communicate, and you can just like, Maximal Command Base, this is Optimus. And like, you can't do this when you want to. Why can you do it now? But he anoints Rat Trap as the commander, as the step in, and boom, Predacons are outside.
And look, this is that's right, it's Tuesday Predacon attack, as usual. Look, this is a good test for Rat Trap too, because as you say, up until this point, look, he's had a couple of moments with Cheetor and being that older brother or, older colleague type position. But for the most part, he's wisecracking, he complains, he doesn't want to do things, sort of Primal's got to kick him in the butt a little bit. And this is an opportunity for him to actually test his mettle, so to speak. He sort of orders everyone outside, and Rhinox is about to come on. He goes, no, you stay in. We need a way to get into this probe to get Primal out. So he is thinking on his feet a little bit, even though, Rhinox would have been help out there and they're outnumbered as it is. Let's figure out how we're actually going to get the boss back. So he is thinking on the fly, and he's starting to try at least and think like a commander instead of just a subordinate.
I think that this point of the episode, you really do see a change in Rat Trap. You start to, as you say, he's less wisecracking. He's now thinking, he's rolling dice and hoping for the best. He's saying, Rhinox, you build stuff, build something, and build he does, but he doesn't have any idea if it's going to work. But hey, he's at least thinking in the right direction.
And then look, we get the fight scene kick off, and there's a very funny Dinobot moment as usual in fight scenes, and he fires out this big flying sidekick from like, let's just arbitrary numbers, 20 meters away, and it's like full on like parody kung fu movie, like that kicks on wires, and he's being like carried across. He's just got some hang time straight into Megatron. Quite amusing. It's probably the way they animated it, and it just came across that way. It looks ridiculous.
Multiple camera shots. But I will say, and I made a note of this, it's not the first time or the last time that we will see Dinobot, Cheetor, or Rat Trap, the three of them fighting side by side. Kind of the three of them going out to the front lines, as it were. And they're taking on Tarantulas, Pterosaur, and Megatron. As I say, Megatron's kind of split his forces at this point. And the Autobot, you've got me doing it now. The Maximals, they're not having that luxury. Well, I've got 5 episodes in. I've got 5 episodes in.
We do get this great scene of Dinobot, and I'm laughing now. I'm glad it's not just me, man. We get this scene of Dinobot and Megs one-on-one, and we get to see the real scale of these two, because they have pretty much a straight on camera angle where we can see Megs and Dinobot literally face to face, no angles or anything, and you can just see how big both of them are, and Dinobot in scale to Megatron, who is for the most part one of the biggest of the Beast Wars Transformers.
Yeah, that fight scene with those two is one of my best, because one of my favorites, I should say, because you get that kind of early exchange where Megatron's using his dino head and dino legs, and Dinobot's using the sword to kind of block and parry, and then just going hell for leather with free fury shots and just shot off.
Nice
it's a real good back and forth. It's very good back and forth. And like I say back in the pilot episode, you feel that Dinobot had to join the Maximals because you couldn't imagine Rat Trap in that position, in that one-on-one fighting, particularly if they haven't got Optimus. You need someone at least like a Rhinox to stand a chance. But Dinobot gave them that much needed size and muscle.
Yeah.
And it leaves Cheetor and Rat Trap to take on Tarantulas and Pterosaur. I will say, I put that at this point here. I don't think it's just animation. Pterosaur's gun looks huge. It looks absolutely massive in this fight scene. It's
one of the G1 animators has popped in for a for a fill-in spot.
Season 3.
Rat Trap realizes that the base is getting too much damage. He says to Dinobot, "Can you please go and hit the repair button?" Essentially, and Dinobot says, "Well, I'm kind of busy at the moment." And at the time, he literally had his hands full with his hands on Megatron's Dino hand, so to speak, or the Dino head, trying to stop himself from getting crushed. So Rat Trap's like, crap, I'm going to have to do this myself. Runs for it, tries to get to the base in time. Of course, we get a very typical action shot again with the counter just getting closer and closer and closer.
Oh, yeah.
Rat Trap does a sort of jump, twist, fires off, shoots Waspinator. Was it Waspinator or Pterosaur?
Pterosaur.
Shoots Pterosaur, rolls, jumps in onto the little lift and hits the button like in a lick of time. So, as I say, very action movie trope. The writers like their little action
It's so
scenes.
1970 James Bond, isn't it? Done with mere seconds to go.
But look, again, it shows Rat Trap is committed to this. So he's leaving himself out in the open. He makes the run for it. He's very tactical. He takes out Pterosaur on the way in and gets the button. So saves the day. And in fact, even gets some credit for it from Dinobot.
Plot twist at this point. Wouldn't he been better to send Cheetor in beast mode?
Of course, but...
Just going to throw it out there. Throwing Cheetor under the bus in the process. Cheetor, you should have done your job. But yeah, you're right. We start to see, I guess, the frenemies. Well, I say start. We've known this is the case. But there's this kind of Dinobot realizes you're in command and you gave me an order. I am dishonored.
I think there's a little bit of mutual respect there coming in, seeing that Rat Trap was willing to sacrifice himself, I guess you could call it, or, risk sacrificing himself for the better good of the team and the base. So there's a little bit of a brownie point there from Dinobot, which is good. And just before this little interaction happens, we do get a very cool sound effect once again, where we get Dinobot doing a big charge up of his laser vision or laser eyes or whatever you want to call it, who he bests Megatron with. And that, just another great sound. As you said early on, I think in episode 1, a lot of the characters have their own sound effects for their weapons. And they're very, very nice. Like, I think very intentional that the sound people for this show are distinct in keeping characters and sounds very consistent and easy to sort of, you know who's shooting.
You identify.
Especially, yeah, that's right. And it's good. I think it's a lovely touch.
Yeah, definitely.
The Preds have run off with the distraction, and then the Energon Surge forces the Maximals back into their beast modes.
End of
which
fight.
again, which again is a ongoing thing in season 1, and it's good that they don't just forget about this ongoing plot point. It is important and is a major thing that they have to be aware of. And in the next episode, when you listen to it in a few weeks' time, we'll actually see a very good example of this once again. But more on that later, I would say. Now we head back to the Armament at the Standing Stones. Rat Trap decides something a bit sus here, and of course he sniffs out the Preds. And I love in this fight scene, we'll go over it in a bit more detail, but Rat Trap's got his gun that we'll see a bit more of detail and action on, and he's got a very RoboCop Auto 9 style automatic pistol with that multi-shot. It's very nice.
Like
I like it.
Nice little side angle shooting. He gets
the
really kind of
gangster
badass at this point. And it's just like, but this is where you're seeing like Rat Trap's kind of grown into that role. He's better than just the demolition expert. Now he's a capable warrior.
He's definitely swimming and not sinking, and I think he earns his stripes in this particular episode. And this is very much, though it's a plot moving forward type episode, it is a little bit of a Rat Trap spotlight as well, giving him some good character growth. The
Hence
overall
why he's the thumbnail for the episode.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So while this is going on, we got Rhinox working to extract Primal with his little device on his arm, and Waspinator thinks he's going to sneak around on old Rhinox and get the better of him. Little does he think think that he's walking up behind a very reflective alien probe. Rhinox easily spots him, and we get the first viewing, if I'm not mistaken, of Rhinox's chain gun, Gatling gun, spinning gut gun things. I think this is the first time we actually see them.
You got me thinking now. I'm trying to think that we definitely didn't see it in the pilot. Didn't see
They
it.
weren't earlier in the
Right.
episode. I think this is the first time that we actually see that. It's only a single gun in this instance, but this is the first time, I believe, listeners, feel free to correct us if we're wrong, that we see these guns. And it's cool because Rhinox up until this point has had to use other people's guns or just stand back. And he's a big guy. He should have some big guns.
Yeah, absolutely. I put a note down of this, as we kind of know. Bad day for Waspinator number 57. He gets utterly torn to shreds. With this, he gets his arm blown off, and actually leading up to this point, I think it's very circumstantial. But Rhinox is struggling with his new device. His device, by the way, is literally 2 rods and a slice of hope. It doesn't really look like it's doing anything, like it's going to extract a transformer. But as you say, he sees the reflection of Waspinator, but up to that point, he says it's not working. Like this whole place is a single device, and this he's talking about the standing stones being like a key, an enabler, and he's starting to think at this point. Fast forward a little bit, Waspinator gets shot to absolute hell, loses his arm, and gets flung against one of the stones, which activates the standing stones.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Touch activated, the energy of the impact, whatever it is. So
Waspinator is the key to alien.
It's more important than we thought he was.
I don't.
So
understand.
yes, he gets absolutely obliterated by Rhinox, which sends him flying back into the stones, as you rightly say. Somehow, for some reason, activates the standing stones. The probe starts pulsing. It starts opening up. Little panels open up on the top of the probe, and Optimus Primal comes flying out of the probe and quickly and swiftly takes out the Preds. I don't know whether it was charged up from being in the probe or it's just a hero's return, but either way, he quickly dismantles the Predacon threat.
Yeah, it's quite a hero return and does a nice line, doesn't he? Look who's back and feeling pride. He's all very quick and cool and easy, and he's will overlook the fact he was taken in beast mode and he reappeared in robot mode, even though Dinobot says he was transforming, but the animation doesn't show it that.
No. Dinobot's recollection of the events might be a little skewed by his bloodthirsty nature.
Yes.
And who knows?
Let's just move on. He's dead.
Primal did say his mind was separated from his body, or that he believes so. So maybe they were doing things to his body at the time. Who knows? But yes, he comes out.
He takes out all 5 Predacons in one hit, himself. So yeah, he could have been
definitely supercharged. Yeah. Look, the probe then nicks off, and the Maximals have concern of who and what they are. They being whoever sent the probe, and again, ominous music playing in the background. So yes, we definitely get, and that's the end of the episode, by the way, viewers. But we definitely get a look at that overarching story that's starting to brew in this season, and we are definitely going to get some big returns to this concept as we go on.
We see, don't we, that even Megatron does a bit of a tail between his legs retreat. He says, the day and the probe is yours, Optimus, and he sort of licks his wounds and retreats, but it's such an undertone episode. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. We've gone from revisiting the Standing Stones, which we haven't done since the briefest of appearances in the second half of the pilot episode. We worked out it's a device, it's an enabler of sorts. We've had an alien visitor pulses into space. We then go into chain of command. We have Rat Trap kind of ironing out some difficult problems with the likes of Dinobot, and you see Megatron. I don't think you see the best of Megatron here. He tries to be the chess player, as we say, and he is, but even then, throughout, the Maximals are very trepidatious around what this probe is and what it's going to do. Mm-hmm. The Preds, on the other hand, are just purely thinking energon, and it's something to seize, and they have no care as to why, what it's going to do. And that's when it's, okay, let's say Megatron won. Great. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Look, there's definitely improvements to his character, and we're starting to get that more of the chess player, as we say, come out. But there's still that that gung-ho towards just getting victory at all costs. So that will change as we go on. But yes, every now and then the writers just get a little too excited about battle, where the bad guys type thing. So, hey, what do you do about it?
We have a lot of battles in this episode. We have a lot of squaring off. And I do think it's so good. Like you say, it's very attractive episode to watch in the 4K upscale. It's very easy on the eye.
Especially those early on scenes, yeah.
Yeah. And we get all 5v5 battles going on, or even if you go to the Axelon battle 3-on-3, and there's a lot to unpack. We still haven't got Sentinel up and running for the Axelon base, so you can tell there's like that shackle. They need to protect their home. But there's a lot going on here. Think about this as well. Scorponok is effectively self-appointed second in command of the Predacons. We go through an entire episode of how we're going to make Rat Trap. And okay, Rat Trap is fairly appointed by Optimus via some sort of communication.
By the train station announcement.
Yeah, in the space of 5 minutes, you're in charge. Didn't need to go through a whole selection process. But I thought that was quite telling that we just assume Scorponok is, we take his word for it, where we have an entire episode called Chain of Command.
I wonder if it's because of the science exploration team nature of the Maximal team. I wonder if it's because, yes, Primal's the captain, the leader, whatever, and then everyone else is just kind of equals. They have their strengths and weaknesses, where the Preds, it's a military operation type thing, so there are, a chain of command, funny enough, the episode. Yeah. But yeah, I wonder if that's the case there. So there's not really a formal protocol for... the boss is out. Who takes over?
I think you're so right in that, and I'm massively foreshadowing with this tangible link. But way later on, when we have Silverbolt into it, I remember an exchange between Silverbolt, who just turns up, and Dinobot, both referring to each other as Commander, to the point that you're kind of making, like, they're more or less equals. They don't have privates, corporals, majors, or any kind of in-between ranks as such. Yeah,
I think it really is that nature of them being an exploration scientific type vessel. Yeah. That being said, if we want to go on that route, so was the Enterprise D was meant to be a scientific vessel, but they had ranks. So I don't know. We're just picking it.
That's Starfleet. We haven't got time to unpack Starfleet.
No, we definitely. It's a good show. Watch it though. No, look, I think there's just an equal thing, and Rhinox is a smart guy, Dinobot's the strong guy, Rat Trap's the scout guy. We all just kind of share the roles. It's not, you must do this, you must do this. And in this case, Primal obviously felt that Rat Trap was the best pick for this particular situation.
Yeah, and it's a good choice, I suppose, because Rhinox has never had an interest to lead. He's a scientist.
I don't think
he's effectively the peacemaker. He doesn't, does he? Whilst he is the voice of reason, of wisdom, he doesn't want a leadership role. He doesn't have that kind of taste for it. But you're so right when you're saying like everyone's kind of mucking in. Remember, they're all stranded on an alien planet. It's kind of desperate times. They have to all get involved, and I think that's quite good when you have in the end of the sort of the middle battle at the Axelon, even Dinobot's quite recited and he follows Rat Trap's lead, and by the time the final battle comes out, again, a lot of battles in this episode. Yeah, the final battle takes place at the Standing Stones, and you've got that great shot when they start firing. I think it's Cheetor and Rat Trap start shooting their guns, and Dinobot does like a side behind walking while shooting eye lasers. Kind of getting, there's a sense of unity going on. They got the choreography in this episode pretty spot on.
Yeah, it was a good episode. It's one of the stronger ones we've had so far out of the now 5 episodes we've watched. Definitely. And they with some very, very notable exceptions, they do go onwards and upwards from here. But yeah. We'll get there. To Ian's utter disgust, we will get there.
Parting rhinos.
Look, I want to
put Rhinox on the thumbnail of that episode.
You're going to have things in mind. I've got things in mind.
I bet you.
Oh god, it's going to be funny. It's going to be a bad.
You're going to put Ace Ventura, aren't you?
Now you give me ideas. Back on task, my friend.
On the episode, Chris. On the episode.
I want to call it a semi-spotlight episode. Oh, jeez, I lost the plot.
You shouldn't use that word either.
I want to call it a semi-spotlight episode for Rat Trap. It's not like there is a very full-on spotlight episode coming up, but does give Rat Trap some stuff to grab onto. And then it also starts that, again, we keep saying it, but that overarching plot with the aliens that we don't know of yet. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but overall it's a strong episode. And this is a long season. It's 20-something episodes, so we've got a long way to go. And as I say, it does build.
Yeah, and I think that's so good. As I say, it's not wrapped up in 22 minutes, is it? We've got, the most we have conclusion-wise is that we've got a second in command now, and we can take that away with us and Primal's back. We can kind of work out what the standing stones are for. So that's kind of the stories that we're happy to conclude at this point, or at least have considerably more understanding. But even as the episode ends, it says, who are they? And, are they a friend, foe, or something more? That's my Dinobot impression.
Yeah. We'll leave that one on the counter, I think.
Thanks.
But
the episode ends and with this kind of this ominous ending. So we're carrying longer stories forward, which is why this is one of my favorite episodes, because it shows that for a 22 episode season run, that we've got stories that won't be concluded within the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, correct. We know there's going to be a lot to come. And when you were watching this originally from a premiere of each episode point of view, you went, oh, there's stuff to look forward to. It grabbed you. It was doing what it was meant to do. So again, it was a good episode. Episode 5, Chain of Command, this was from season 1. And looking forward to the next episode, which you guys will hear in about 2 weeks. We're very excited because this is both of us is one of our favorite episodes, and that's Power Surge, but we'll get onto that soon. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. Now, as usual, you can reach us at a myriad of places, as That's Just Prime, a Beast Wars podcast. If you search that, you'll find us on X, you'll find us on Blue Sky, you'll find us on Instagram. We are on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, all the derivatives of. We have a LinkedIn. It's on our profiles. Click there and you'll find everywhere you want. Every fortnight when we post our episodes, we do give a basic list of where that episode is uploaded. And of course, we have our YouTube, which we premiere the episodes every fortnight when they are live, and often, if not every time, the two of us are in the chat. So come along and have a chat to us and talk about what we're talking about and what's happening in the episode. It's really good fun.
Yeah, it's really good to do effectively a watch along, isn't it? And we can, whilst we're hearing ourselves talk, people can watch at the same time and chime in with their own comments, particularly when we're starting to pick episodes apart. Like, how could Primal communicate from the middle of his subconscious, and people can chime in with their own views. Yeah, the golden almond, yeah. So if you want to watch it when it goes live and premiering on YouTube, that's a good way of doing so. Again, do drop a comment, do drop a like. It's good for us just to see how we're reaching you, what sort of platforms you're looking to work on. And we're on Facebook as well. I don't know if you mentioned that one, but posting all of the Beast Wars groups on Facebook. So we're more or less everywhere. We're like florists.
The other thing I would like some feedback on from you, dear listeners, is when do you listen to us? Do you listen to us in the morning? Do you listen to us at work, in the evening? Also, from a YouTube point of view, when would suit you to join us for that watch along? Where you can be comfortable and sit there for half an hour or so and interact, so that we can work in with you guys and maximize that time for you. Because really, he's smiling. He's smiling.
He's trying to pretend that was just an ad lib, but he's had that planned for weeks.
Don't listen to him, listeners. Don't listen. No, but let us know when do you listen, or when would you prefer to watch? So depending on, because I know we have a couple of listeners/viewers that watch the YouTube, and I know we have a bunch that listen. So for the listeners, when do you prefer to listen? I know you can just download it, listen to it whenever you want, but in terms of it coming out, at the moment, we release it of a morning, so that, because we have a lot of morning crew that like to have a listen in the morning while they're exercising or getting to work or whatever. Also, for the YouTube crew, when do you have time to sit and have something streaming while you're working or while you're watching a bit of TV? So let us know. We really appreciate any feedback that everyone can give us.
Absolutely, to that point. I mean, we're very, very mindful that here I am in the UK and there's Chris out in Australia. So we're trying to cover a lot of the parts of the world. And obviously we have our American fans and Canadian fans and everyone else in between. So trying to find a sweet spot is, we're working our way. This is why we say put something in comments that we can work to analytics to try and find that you're getting the content at the right time that works for you, because you're listening to it at the end of the day. We can just talk for this amongst ourselves, but we want to kind of work it around it's convenient to the dear listeners.
Yeah. And of course, feedback on the episode, what you liked, what you didn't. Tell us what you thought of that particular episode, Chain of Command, and just get in touch with us. We love the interaction from the people that we do get it from. We've got a few regulars now, which we love, and we're welcoming new people all the time. As of this recording, we have gone well over 300 listens on our audio recordings, and I think we're probably at 150 or so on the YouTube.
More than that, because the last episode alone drew 100.
There you go.
Which has been considered, that's a toy episode, the toy cast that we did, which I was very pleased with that.
Yeah,
going
awesome.
up by far the most watched YouTube video at the moment. So this is what we're saying, like that seems to have done quite well on YouTube, maybe less so when it comes to the podcast version, but then the other episodes like Chain of Command have done quite well in podcast form. So this is when we're looking for a bit of an engagement bit, as someone likes to put in their videos.
Yeah, engagement bait. But yes, let us know, everyone. We really want the feedback, and we want interaction from our friends and our fans. I don't like using that word, but that's what it is. If you're a fan of the show, let us know that you enjoy it, and of course follow us on those apps and things that you use, because that way we can see what's actually happening and we can put that information to good use, like we've been saying.
So that's a wrap on episode 5. Thanks very much for joining us for Chain of Command. It's an episode I'm particularly fond of. Chris, can we tell the lovely people, aside from That's Just Prime, a Beast Wars podcast, where can we find you on the socials and what are you up to?
I'm everywhere, and because I'm just unlucky I can't get the same name everywhere, but I am Chris Carnage _ on X and Instagram. On Blue Sky, I'm Chris Carnage, whatever that Blue Sky thing is, like it's got the tail on it. YouTube, I am Carnage Creations, and I'm on various other little things, but you'll find me.
And you'll find me as ArrowFyre, which I am again on Twitter, just as ArrowFyre. Same with Blue Sky. With the Y, always with the Y, because I'm hipster. We're again on Facebook as well. YouTube is primarily my bread and butter. Haven't done as many videos of late, but I will be getting back into the swing of that. So yeah, you'll find me on all platforms except for Instagram, where I'm Arrow_Fire, which I keep saying.
It's better than the old one.
Yeah. Less of a mouthful.
So anyway, everyone, we're everywhere. You'll find us. But for this particular instance, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky for the podcast, because we want to get some more followers on there and get the word out, so to speak. Anyway, thanks for listening. We will definitely see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's just prime.